it's so important to build a personal brand because that just builds credibility, right? We live in a very great time right now where we can actually leverage what we know. The career landscape has completely shifted. And I feel like your job is not just to do the job anymore, but it's also to speak about the job. Start now, like the best time to start was yesterday, and the next second best time is today. The game here is, and which is where most professionals falter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. My name is Soumya Prakash, and in today's podcast, we are going to discuss another one very important topic. Most of us has been scrolling through content day and night, and very few of us understand how you can create opportunity through creating content. Many skilled professionals, they are very skilled, but they remain invisible, not because they lack ability, but because they lack visibility. So the question is the personal branding becoming very crucial, and is it the game changer or is it just a buzzword? So to understand this, today my guest is Tanya Dubey, who has not only observed this creator economy, but she is building in it. From journalism to Mesa Business School and working in LinkedIn, she has seen how professionals are building their influence. And now she is building Creators Chart, which helps professionals and content creators to not just show up, but also to stand out and monetize their expertise. So, in this conversation, we will discuss her career as well as we will understand how content creation or your personal brand can help you to navigate through the career challenges and you can generate more and more opportunities through content creation. So, I'm very delighted to invite Tanya on my channel. Thank you, Tanya, for being on my channel today.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here, Soumya.
So, Tanya, tell me that today we see many professionals who are very skilled but still remain invisible. Is the personal branding the real differentiator in today's world?
I completely agree with that statement. In fact, I think you and I both know that the career landscape has completely shifted. And I feel like your job is not just to do the job anymore, but it's also to speak about the job. And a lot of times, when you've been a part of different organizations, you realize that it's not only speaking to people directly, like that is your manager or your skip manager. It's also sometimes influencing the larger industry, right? At the end of the day, your manager and skip manager will probably get hired in similar industries. But if you want to pivot your career, if you want to start your own business, want to become a consultant, have other options in your career, it's so important to build a personal brand because that just builds credibility, right? If people know that you've been posting, let's say, once a week since 10 years now, they know that you're somebody to be trusted. And they also distinctively can tell if you have a unique voice, if you are not using AI and actually putting your expertise to use. So, completely agree with your statement. There are multiple people who are skilled at what they do, but how many of us really know them, right? Give you an example, like a recent example is that when the Winter Olympics happened and we saw Felicia Liu and Eugene, I think Eugene Gu or Jiu, whatever her name is. The reasons why these two women from figure skating and ice skating were, highlighted was because not because they haven't been working hard since the last decade, right? Their stories came to fore because they could differentiate themselves from other people in their space, right? There are multiple people who have actually won gold and silver amongst these two women, but the reason these two stood out is because they were very distinctly different and they could showcase their personality effortlessly, not just on their field, particularly their sports field, but also in media, in social media. And that's where the differentiator comes into play.
And if someone ignores personal branding today, then what opportunities do you think that they'll miss in the long run?
I think, see, at the end of the day, you and I both know when it comes to any career opportunity, a lot of times it could be, your friends, it could be, people who've heard of you, they've had a chat with you, they liked you in general in person. But personal branding, or just creating content online, I really don't like the personal branding word. I don't know if you noticed that I don't use it in my profile much, or like using social media, using like social media content and stuff like that. And that's also by design, because I feel like, Soumya, I work with senior professionals and CXOs. They don't really want their personality to be showcased. They want their work to be showcased. And they are a vehicle for their work, right? Whether it's founders, whether it's like senior leaders who might be representing a brand or might be representing an industry. I work with a CEO who's been CEO for like 35 years. And you can imagine the credibility he brings to the table, right? And the kind of language and the kind of nuance that he has, that's another level altogether. I'm not 35 years old, so you can imagine, like, the kind of nuance he brings to the table. And I think it just comes down to knowing that, you get to share something that you're proud of, something that you've done work in, then just calling it branding, because branding can sometimes be a little, you and like, because how marketing is, it can be a little bit made up. And I feel like personal branding doesn't always need to be made up, or social media content. Actually, the kind of social media content that's working right now, it is authentic, it is real, it is coming from experience. So we live in a very great time right now, where we can actually leverage what we know in our career or in our industry and really take it from there.
So tell me, Tanya, about your journey. You started from journalism, then you did your MBA from Mesa School, then you joined LinkedIn, and now you're building Creator Chart. So first, tell me how your journey was throughout your career, and also what problem you're solving through Creator Chart.
Great. Thank you so much, Soumya. My journey has been really interesting, actually. It's been over 10 years, almost 11 years in June, since I started working straight out of college. And Mesa actually was very recent. So LinkedIn was first, and then after that, I did Mesa.
Okay.
So that was a little different. But I can start from the beginning. So I graduated from Delhi University. I've majorly spent most of my life in Delhi for 15 years studying from my high school to college. And I got a job from Delhi University, which is unheard of. They don't really care about placement. And I got into Z business, which is very close to home, where I lived in Noida. And it was great because I was one of the first startup correspondents. Startup word had just started, to be honest, with Flipkart and Snapdeal. Now you wouldn't even consider them startups, right? But that was our first level of startups, I guess, when Amazon came to India, etc. And I've seen this industry grow as a journalist from, firsthand, and seen the power of how internet can really transform businesses and industries, including journalism, by the way.
Okay.
Journalism, if you think about it, has evolved into content creation. The voices have become much more like, and of course, the credibility is questionable. But at the end of the day, you can start like how we're talking right now, a podcast, or you can, create a reel on a topic that you're really passionate about. So I think that is something that's game changing overall. So when I saw this industry evolve, I realized that I don't think journalism is going to work for me. I moved to Bombay for a job opportunity in 2018, and that was the first time I'm moving out from my house. And I got an opportunity with LinkedIn, very luckily, after 1 year moving to Bombay. And I took it because really saw the industry move towards social media, right? And I'm so glad because I got to work in very different roles in LinkedIn in the 4 years that I was working there. One was, of course, corporate communication, social media team. Then from there, I moved to community management, which is like the most, I would say, the highlight of my corporate career, where I got to build like the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. By the time I left, we had managed over 15,000 creators. That's
Oh, that's
insane.
great.
Yeah, so of course that was at scale, so it wasn't like actually managing 15,000 people. But you can imagine, like, we saw how much growth can happen with the kind of programs that we do with these 15,000 active members in India itself, right? And that's where my idea of, like, I think the creator economy is booming. There's a lot of opportunities, and I'd like to take a part in it, somehow, and not just as a creator, but as a business owner. And Mesa, that's why I came into play, because I was looking at different startups, and I was working from home because, it was just after the pandemic, and we had remote jobs, which we were very lucky for getting. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to start looking for jobs in Bangalore in startups. And I realized this was 2023 when the startup ecosystem was really bad, like the funding had started drying up. So it was not a great time to look for senior roles in marketing. And yeah, one thing led to another, and I got an ad for Mesa because probably I was talking to too many startup people talking about startups and roles and stuff like that. That clearly Meta was creepy enough to pick that up, and I got an ad for Mesa, and I was a part of the first batch. So for me, if you ever ask me, MBA was never on the cards. It just happened because I liked that Mesa gave me an opportunity to one move to Bangalore, like have a reason to do that. Basically, take a gap year, but very productive gap year instead of sitting at home and figuring out what to do with life.
Right.
Um, and I got an 80% scholarship, so I didn't have to take a loan. That was a very cheap MBA that I
That's
did.
that's really great.
And I think it's because I was one of the first people to join the batch. And I think just like the people, I think I really like the founders, and I wanted to take a bet on them. And within the 6 months, Soumya, the first 6 months that I was there, and my last day at LinkedIn was my first day at Mesa, and that was by design because I did not want to take a break and I wanted to jump right into college, which I hadn't done in what 8+ years, I guess. Was just to meet new people and meet other fellow entrepreneurs. And I think I got so inspired because I met people our age or, even younger, like 25, 26 year olds, just creating amazing like things. And I think once you go to college, you realize that you need much less resources than you think that you need when you're busy and you're really like, logged into a purpose. And I just realized that I'd rather take that life where I don't have any regrets and I've put my 100 to 100% in building a business. And I never sat for placements. I knew exactly that I wanted to start my own business. And by February of 2024, we had launched. I joined in September. And I got my first 10 customers from one single post on LinkedIn. And there was
That's
no
great.
looking back. Yeah. And again, very expensive in according to me, but they all took a bet on me. And I think since then, we've had over 50 people who've taken a bet on me, including 6 companies. You were a part of the Herky program too.
Right.
And now we have a team of 7. I'm sitting in my office in Kormangla, and it's been a great journey. But I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat it that it's not been hard. It's definitely been very hard, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't ever want to go back to the corporate workplace ever again if I can avoid it.
And what did you learn about personal branding while you were working in LinkedIn?
I think I learned a few things that one, senior people who have the knowledge don't have the time to create content. More than time, Soumya, it's all about prioritization. You're a mom. I am a pet mom, I guess, but I can't even imagine having a kid right now. But you and I both know once you have a kid, you figure it out, right? Like you just have to prioritize and you have to make it work. And I think what I learned is that the people who are prioritizing this and who see the vision and who are motivated are the ones who are reaping the rewards. And I wanted to do that for the people who have taken the first step, but maybe they don't know how to take the second or third, fourth, fifth step, right? And I think that's what we solve for. I think you'd ask that question like, what does Create a Chart do? And we actually look at people. So we don't work with everyone. I don't work with Gen Z, like for sure, because I know that they're still figuring their career out and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think they should create content to get that confidence, in themselves and to talk about their experiences. But I really want to target people or really want to help people who have the knowledge, who've done a lot of things in their life, but they just don't know how to market themselves. And they can't also afford to, have like an entire team rallying behind them, but they can afford to invest a decent amount to, work with my team to make sure that they're active on at least 2 platforms. So we usually work on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Substack. We are looking at YouTube in the future because, creator platform at the end of the day is YouTube.
Right.
And but that's the most time intensive in general, like compared to other platforms. But that being said, like I think the future's very bright, and I think you have also seen the social media landscape evolve, right? Initially
Right.
we were taking advice from 20-year-olds, and now we ignore them, and we know that we should only listen to the people who have the credibility to talk about the claims that they're making about a certain industry.
And let me ask you a very basic question. What is personal branding and why it is so important for professionals and entrepreneurs in today's digital era?
I think personal branding, if you ask me to define it very simply, is to talk about your work online and make sure that you game the algorithm, like the social media algorithm, to help you meet the opportunities that you want in your career, specifically for professionals and founders. It's really important for founders. I think the most you and I both know, like I do it for my business more than anything else. And of course, I also have fun with it. I just wish I had more time to do more of it. But thankfully, now I have a team to help me support it. That's number one. I think for professionals, particularly, you and I both know, like, the economy is really bad and the job market's the worst it's been, I would say, in a decade.
Correct.
After the pandemic, things have completely changed. People don't know what they're hiring for. People don't know what they're applying for. And there's a lot of ambiguity on what your role could look like or what your role could evolve to. The kind of people who are succeeding right now, Soumya, are the people who are upskilling, who are realizing that the market has changed and really like changing their own skill set to meet the demands of the market. But the ones who are also fluid, who realize that they might join as somebody and then that role might evolve into something else, and they're open to that because they see that as a challenge and a growth opportunity instead of seeing that as a limitation, right? And I think if you don't have that growth mindset, it's going to be very difficult for you to create content but also just stick to your job. So if your job is not actually in line of fire, or if you're not going to be fired right now, another 2 years you might get fired if you're not really like focused on building either your skill set and a personal brand, or either of the two at the end of the day, right? Because you don't know who sees you and who actually looks out for you and gets you the kind of opportunity you want.
At what stage a professional should strive for personal branding? And as you said that you don't work with freshers, I would like to know the reason why.
I think, younger people or freshers or even people under 5 years of experience, they have the luxury of time, Soumya. They have a lot more time, less responsibilities. They do have, I would say, the more energy to try and explore social media by themselves. It's the easiest time to become a content creator now. You can literally buy the entire gear for creating content, besides like an iPhone or a decent smartphone, for under 2000 rupees. So I think if you wanted to, you can easily, and you can honestly, you don't even need that. If you have a phone, I think that's good enough. You can start by yourself. So you don't really need a team to support you. You don't need Creator Chart to help you out. That's number one. Number two, and like, you have the luxury of time to figure out social media over the next few years, right? As you create more and post more. And that also is a little fickle minded. Like, think about yourself when you were 24, 25. Like, I didn't know what I wanted out of my career when I was 25. And I think I feel like the 25-year-old now is even more confused than ever because of how much the workplace has changed and the demands of the workplace has changed, right? So for them to invest in a team like mine or in our solutions would be a little, I would say, irresponsible because they don't know the outcome that they can get, right? But people who are older, they're very clear about what they want from social media, and usually it's higher engagement, it's quality content, it's a very particular niche that they're targeting, right? Because they've done the work, they know exactly which area they want to grow into. They're the ones making very concrete 5 year, 10 year plans, right? And they know where that personal brand could help them grow. And I think that's our specialty. The only guarantee that I can give or my team can give at the end of the day is increase in top of the funnel. The rest of the results will only happen in the quality of the content. And sadly, with the younger people, I can't guarantee the quality of the content. But with the older people, I know that there's a specific insight or a unique point of view that we can highlight because they've already showcased that in their career, right? For us to take that to the next level, or take that learning and teach other people. I think these are the two outcomes that we're looking at.
So, you would suggest that anyone who has at least 5 years of experience, they should start or they should strive for personal branding.
Agree. But I think if you're in your college, you should just create content because maybe you're creating, like, you're learning, picking up skills on how to produce content, how to
Right.
edit, how to become more articulate, right? And these are soft skills that are irreplaceable, right? At the end of the day, I'm
Correct.
hiring right now, and I half of the people like I reject because they can't even speak to me properly for like 20 minutes. Like, how will they work with like, content and communication at the end of the day? So I think if you take that as a skill building and more fun project, then like, thinking of it as like a very goal oriented, I need to become an influencer, etc., it's not going to work. Think of it as skills, and if you become an influencer, if you start making money out of it, that's always a great bonus.
And how personal branding is different from self promotion and showing off online.
I think personal branding is more about talking or helping like a bigger group than yourself, right? Self
Right.
promotion, see, it is, I'm not going to lie, it does, lie into the, it's not exclusive particularly. It is sort of, I wouldn't call it a synonym, but close to a synonym. But I think instead of self promotion, the kind of content that usually goes far and gets you the results is usually helpful content, and that usually stems from experience, and that could be called as self promotion. But at the end of the day, it's actually serving a bigger goal for the community itself, right? And
Mhm.
that's the kind of content that we also like to work on, where we look at it very holistically, where we're helping like a bigger group of people who can actually benefit from the content itself.
And how does personal branding helps in building credibility and trust?
I think it's honestly very clear. If you keep seeing the same faces or the same content again and again with the same faces, you start expecting a certain kind of content from them. Give you an example: if somebody posts every day, and let's say they're coming on your feed every third day or fourth day, not probably every day, this person is creating content consistently. You know that the kind of content that they create, if they're not changing their tone and their personality too much in the content, and you sort of get comfortable with them being there. It's a little creepy, but just think about like how you go to office and you're comfortable with a group of people and you just expect them to show up there. That's what your feed starts feeling like. So that credibility is created very automatically, and so is trust. So let's say if I really look forward to someone's content and I keep reacting or engaging with their content regularly, let's say I've been doing that for months. If they sell something to me, I'm more likely to at least check it out, even if I don't buy it, right? Just to be curious about, hey, what are they offering here, and can I benefit from it, right? So I think, yeah, that's how it can really create a lot of credibility and trust. The game here is, and which is where most professionals falter, is that they post once, they go viral, and then they shut. Like they're like, okay, whatever. Like now my job is done. I got my validation for the month or for the week. That's not how it happens. You have to keep at it, and instead of thinking of it as like, oh my God, another chore on my to-do list, think of it as like, hey, this is helping me build to a bigger, goal. It's like going for a workout or brushing your teeth, right? At the end of the day, it becomes a part of your day, and that can get you like outsized benefit than ever.
If someone is starting from scratch, give me three steps what they can do.
I think number one, what they should do is, this is a framework I like using with my clients. So I'm going to give this to you right now. Think of your life in three phases. Right now is current phase, like where we are right now in the present, and that could be obviously the near present. So let's say the next year could be the present, right? Then past is your experience, and future is your future outlook, right? What are you working towards? So that could be the next year, it could be beyond that. The present is usually your recent plans, your, what you're up to, what you're doing right now. All these three become like your content bucket. So what you've done in the past is what gets you credibility. What you're doing right now is what creates relatability. And the future outlook is what creates thought leadership. So if you want to look at like an expert, predict things that are probably going to happen in the future. If you want to also look like an expert and who's somebody like getting a lot of credibility, you go back to your past. And right now you take people along with your journey so that they see you going towards the future, which you claim that you're going to be. Right. I think that's what it comes down to.
So, should they have a niche or expertise which they can talk about? Like, I'm from finance background, I'm teaching right now, and sometimes I post about books also because I read books. So, is it okay to have few things where you can, I mean, move around?
Of
Or
course, it's your personality. You can't like stick to a box. Like why are you be creating content on social media. I think it's always fun to go out of the box. And sometimes you might even see, Soumya, that your books post is getting more traction. So it's all about
Right.
like a mixed bag, right? See, giving you an example, if you get an award in your industry, now that's not going to happen every week, but will you not post about the award because it's not a part of your content plan? Of course, you should post about the award, right? Because that's a highlight of your life, and you and I both know that gets a lot of traction on social media because people want to become supporters of, good work that's being done. That being said, I think having a rough idea of what we could post is always a good thing because that just helps you maintain that consistency. That being said, don't limit yourself. I think content, not always would I say quantity is better, like the more the better. But in some cases, you're just using quantity to figure out, gather data points. Don't think of quantity as like, oh my God, I'm posting too much on LinkedIn or I'm posting too much on Substack. It's more about to see user behavior and then deciding, okay, this is something that I want to post about, and this is something I probably want to skip.
And how important is authenticity and storytelling while you are posting anywhere on any platform?
It's the most important. Nothing else matters. In fact, the people come to us and work with us, they're only solving for that, if you ask me. Because I mean, authenticity can easily come in, but one thing that we do very nicely, and I think that's also our favorite part, is we have a weekly catch up call with the people that we work with, and it's usually to like discuss content ideas or either we're reviewing the content or we're showing them the kind of content pieces that we think would work for them. And where the nuance actually comes is the authenticity, right? I'm not going to post something as is because I already know probably that this creator might have a like a different point of view, right? Even if like the team is posting on their behalf. That's number one. Number two, storytelling itself. Sometimes, the people that we work with have a better point of view on how the story could go because they've lived that story at the end of the day, right?
Right.
But our job as like their, partners would be to tell them that, hey, no, we're telling you that this format will work, and it usually does because, we've seen that with experience. So our expertise is to figure out the storytelling part of it, and their expertise is to bring the authenticity. And I think together that can create magic.
Which platform is best for professionals and entrepreneurs out of all the platforms which you have named already? LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Substack. And should one stick with one platform or should they be present in all the platforms simultaneously?
That's a very interesting question and something I get a lot. See, at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a professional platform. I would always say that your presence there is really important, especially as an entrepreneur and even just as a professional. At the end of the day, if somebody wants to connect with you professionally, they'll look you up on LinkedIn. Whether you're like completely active, posting every day, that's not that important. But being active on LinkedIn and keeping it updated, and just reacting and showing your presence is really important. A completed LinkedIn profile just adds a lot of credibility. Giving you an example, if somebody wants to work with us, right? And they see that I'm connected to three of their friends, and maybe I've talked about one person that they know who we worked with as a case study. They'll just reach out to that person, and if the person like says great things about me, they'll probably want to work with my team. So that is invaluable, and that is like a great conversion immediately. So as an entrepreneur, that's a great way to think about LinkedIn from a network standpoint. It's the biggest network. It's 1 billion members throughout the world out of 8 billion. So that's not a bad number at all. Number two, if you ask me, would be Substack for people who read and people who like to create good content. I think Substack is doing a great job with creating like, highlighting writing. I think much better than like other platforms like Medium, etc. Third platform I would say is YouTube. Maybe because I'm biased, I love YouTube as a channel, and I think YouTube just gives you an opportunity to showcase like something from long form perspective. Even though I also watch shorts on YouTube,
Right.
but if you ask me, if you're just starting out and you like video and video is your like you love that format in general, the immediate way for you to get traction is to post a reel on Instagram. You will get traction. You will feel happy that, okay, 1,000 impressions I've gotten, some, interaction I've gotten. But if you ask me, time investment, I would say spend most time on LinkedIn, then on Substack if you're a writer, if not Substack on Instagram. And then finally only go to YouTube when you know you have time to invest to edit to spend time on figuring out thumbnails, keywords, all of that, because without that YouTube is not going to work for you.
And there are various kind of forms, like there are, you write on LinkedIn, or video is, a lot of platforms have accepted video as a more acceptable now. So which form will work at which platform? How can one find this or identify it?
So you will see this very clearly. If you go on Instagram, Reel is the heart of Instagram now. Initially, obviously, pictures were and Reel were
Right.
secondary. Now carousels have become secondary. So carousels also get sometimes enough traction or as much traction as Reels sometimes, right? Depending on how good the storytelling is. So if let's say you're posting thrice on Instagram in a week, I would say two Reels, one carousel is a good combination for you to get the reach that you're targeting or the growth that you're targeting for your profile. Of course, keep improving. All of that will always happen. It's the most creative platform, I feel. How do you entertain people in 30 seconds? How do you make them their follower? That's the biggest, challenge there for sure. I think on LinkedIn itself, while videos show they do decently well, and I have seen a decent traction on videos on LinkedIn too, I would say it's still always going to be a platform where people write. At the end of the day, like LinkedIn's not going to change that. They took out the video feed, so that just shows you that they're not willing to become another Instagram at the end of the day. So that just shows that they're fine with video on the feed, but not as a separate tab altogether. With YouTube, if you ask me, YouTube are people who are lifetime subscribers. So YouTube, the people have subscribed probably a decade ago when I probably started YouTube, or more, I think 15 years ago, whatever. I'm still following them unless they've gotten into some controversy or created bad content. I'm always going to follow them. So if you want lifetime loyalty and lifetime like traction, and there is a certain type of a YouTube viewer like me, I would watch a YouTube video than watching a Netflix episode, because for me that's
Right.
like a dopamine but storytelling, right? So for me, I would say that YouTube is a long form content, always will be, but some of these reels do really well on YouTube as well. So don't knock it out of the park, but be very careful. Like if you have a certain time allocation, I would say spend more time on the format that the platform is known for. So for LinkedIn, that would be written content with a picture, for because media does do well, but even carousels are doing decently well on LinkedIn. Then you go after Instagram with Reels, and then you look at long form content with YouTube. So I think every platform has their preferred format, and then of course they keep experimenting with others. Every platform wants you to spend enough time on the platform. So whatever makes you do that, they will optimize for it. They don't have any I would say boundaries around it. Probably Substack is the only platform, but that being said, Substack also now lets you put videos in their feed. So it's also changing, but again the heart of the platform will remain newsletters.
And a lot of people will not post because of fear of judgment or criticism. So how can a person overcome that?
I have only one question, to be honest with you, because I feel like I get this so much because I'm in this field, right? And my only question is, are they paying your bills? If they're not paying your bills, they don't get to ask you questions, like at the end of the day. And you have to decide, yeah, everything is a life of, like, everything is a game of pros and cons, right? If their
Right.
judgment is more important to you than your own growth in content or social media, then you prioritize that. But if that's not the case, then, you do you.
And how important is consistency?
Is the most important. You can be a one hit wonder once a year, and you might have amazing thoughts that you are only proud of to put out once a year. You're saying, this is the best reel I've created, so I'm going to post it, or this is the best um, article I've written, so I'm going to post it. But my question is that why are you not posting that half written piece of content? Like, what is the problem there? Like, I don't understand, Like, I feel like that's still growth. The only time with where you should hesitate posting is when you know this has no you, in it, like no your personality, and it's mostly AI. Because I feel like we don't need another person writing the same content with AI. I think that's waste of time for everyone.
Tanya, tell me, we have been talking about professionals, why it is important for them. For business owners, why it is important to have to build a personal brand.
I think it all comes down to, for business owners like me, comes down to sales at the end of the day. And I
Right.
think the more present you are, it just creates a lot of trust in people. Like you and I both know, if we want to buy anything from the internet, a completed website, seamless payment methods, reviews now are all very important for you to see any sales going through. A lot of times I've not bought from, let's say, something from Instagram that I saw because I wasn't sure if it was a legitimate website. Touchwood, till now I've never been scammed, right? But I would go back to the profile to check, if this is the right person. What we have seen is when you are in a field which has a lot of competition, it takes like one thing to sway the other, customer on the other side. If you're selling the same product, and usually it's the storytelling. If they're invested in your story, they're most probably going to buy from you. Giving you
Right.
an example, he's my favorite founder, and I talk about him everywhere. Is Shashank Mehta. He has a team, but he does not have like there's never outsourced marketing. Everything that they do marketing related is in-house. And I feel like his brand, The Whole Truth, is synonym with like Shashank because he started it because he was, obese and he wanted to lose weight, and he realized that everything that he's eating has a lot of chemicals, a lot of preservatives, and none of the Indians were actually reading the label and creating alternatives that at
Right.
scale that were very accessible at the end of the day. And I feel like he really solved for that. And that's why for me, like whenever I buy something more whole truth, it might be really expensive compared to other brands. But I know for a fact that I can trust this guy. And he talks about, something from how is the war affecting um, stock prices? Why do they have to increase protein powder prices? Why do they have to increase this, let's say protein bar prices? I think that transparency creates like a lot of trust instead of, the customer going like, okay, I'm not going to pay 50 rupees extra. I'll just go to the
Right.
competition. Because that's the kind of mindset we have, sadly. Like we are going to switch to the competition if there's no personal I would say a lot of people are looking for a personal touch at the end of the day, right? And
Right.
personal branding actually brings that personal touch. And if they feel like they can, they know you, they trust you, they're more likely to probably work with you. In fact, just letting you know, out of the 50 people, 50 plus people that we've worked with, at least 25 of them I knew in my previous organizations. So they're all people that I've probably interacted with, not particularly friends, but just acquaintances or second degree connections. But they knew off of me, they've worked with me, they've heard of me. And I think it wouldn't have happened if I didn't post when I was back at LinkedIn and when I had the credibility to back it up. And then finally, when I started my own thing, I have to rebuild that credibility for Creator Chat. But the fact that I started much earlier,
Right.
even if like I might not be a viral influencer, but that credibility from let's say even 10, 15,000 followers has really helped me get a good start. And
Right.
imagine if I had not posted at all and I was just enjoying like working at my company and not really caring about sharing what I'm doing. I think that would have actually like not helped me right now, and I would have to work much harder to get to the space that I am and where the business is right now.
Tanya, tell me how AI will change content creation in next 5 years.
It's already changing content creation. Like I have to say, like right now I'm hiring in my team, okay? And I cannot hire anyone from who's just graduated in the last 2 years because their dependency on AI has really ruined how they think, how they write. I'm hiring for a content team, right? So my filter has now become 3 years of experience, 4 years of experience, because I just want them to exercise their logic and writing muscle. And I think that's the biggest disservice, honestly, AI has done. That being said, like, it's great when I have to write like formal emails, or I have to like structure a document, or I have to build SOPs, or, I have to do research. These are things that has, been life changing for sure. Like adding context, structuring a piece of content. But I feel like, there are pros and cons again to this, but I think overall it's a good thing that AI has come into the content space. That being said, it's really shaken up the entire industry because now you have a lot of, I would say, average content. So really standing out is much harder. But I feel like that's still an opportunity, right? That gives an opportunity to original thinkers. So
Right.
for me, also, like, hiring criteria has to become more robust. So it just sucks in a lot of ways. But I think it's honestly a good thing overall, because we've become more productive in a lot of areas that would have taken me an entire day. Now I can do in like probably an hour, which is pretty cool.
If viewers can take one action after watching this podcast, what it should be?
If you like, okay, I have to say this because I think this is really important. But I think during the pandemic, I started journaling, Soumya, and I think it's really created so much growth. I think reflection is the biggest um, strength that nobody talks about. So if you had to take one thing, I would love for you to start writing every day. Start with a line, original line. Please take pen and paper if that helps. Just use a laptop. Just don't open an AI tool. Don't open Google. And just write one line. It doesn't matter how bad it is. I think it just help you start creating that original line of thought, which can help you succeed so well in content. And I think that's exactly what people are looking for. Like every person I work with, every person I talk to, and even the content that I create, I always look for that unique insight. And I think I would suggest that you do the same.
I recently read a book which is called Open to Work.
Oh, nice,
So,
by Ryan Roslansky,
yeah,
right?
right. So they have said one thing that AI can replace the work which you are doing, but it cannot replace you.
Yeah,
So, so you have to bring your authentic self and your critical, don't misuse AI and don't overuse AI because your critical thinking should be intact. The way,
exactly. I'm telling you, that's all I'm hiring for now. That's pretty much it. And that's exactly what will get you to the next level in your career in this day and age. If you're like just another person in 10,000, it's not going to work anymore. Then I'll just get an intern, no, to do the same AI work that I don't want to do.
right. So thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing all these valuable insights because I personally believe that this will become a game changer in future that you must have your own personal brand over internet or online now because it's very much required. Any last thought to my audience?
I think it's great, Soumya, to see you creating a podcast yourself. So I think it's very poetic that we are talking about creating content while, creating content actually at the end of the day. My suggestion would be to start now. Like the best time to start was yesterday, and the next second best time is today. That's the, best part of it. And I think another, thing that I read about right now is that one of my favorite lines ever is this line called pressure is a privilege. So if, creating content is creating pressure in your life, that's a privilege that you get to create that growth in your life, and never forget that, you're pushing yourself. And I think the people who take that with a grain of salt and prioritize it will realize that, that's what actually took them much further than they could have imagined.